Welcome to the Women Between Worlds podcast. I am your host, Sarah Wall, and today I have a very special guest. I have my own daughter,
I'm Bella.
Echeverry. Bella, welcome to the Women Between Worlds podcast.
Thanks for
Thanks for
having
coming
me.
on. So let's dive straight in with a little bit about like who you are, how old are you, what are you currently doing in the world? Like just tell us really briefly a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm Bella, I'm 19, and I'm currently studying a film business course because I hope to be a film producer, and I've always been into film.
Yeah. So you're at university right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Which was all a bit of a journey to get there, wasn't it?
I started the course, or I applied for it 2 weeks before it started. So it was all coming at once, but it was so fatalistic because I just found the course.
Yeah, we had a really interesting couple of years. Well, you've had a really interesting life.
Yeah.
And you're only,
would say.
You're only 19. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for people who don't know, Bella grew up in Colombia and her dad is Colombian. And so Bella, I wanted to ask you, I've had a lot of different iterations of myself and my career over the years, and especially since you've known me, because I had you when I was 25, 26. What can you share about when you were growing up, right? We were living in Colombia, and what was probably normal for you in terms of coming with me to work events and like hanging out in different cities in Colombia and traveling and like having time off school? Like, can you just tell us a little bit about that experience? Because I know it was normal for you, but like, what was that like growing up, having a single mom that was a working mom that was like running her own business? What was that like for you?
I would say it was pretty fun in terms of like it was kind of free flowing. It wasn't like strict, like maybe I have my life and you have your life type of thing. Like it wasn't like this and that, like two different lanes. It was like, oh, we are now doing this. So I remember that I'd bring in some leaflets to school for your lash company when I was in maybe primary school or something. I can't remember. And I just had like this joy for marketing in some strange way. Like I still love it now. I did media studies, that's a different story. But yeah, I feel that it provided me with life experiences in a simple way. Like I got to be in environments with people at a young age, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I wasn't just like a child who went to school and then went to a playground and then only around different children. It's like I was around people.
So true.
Yeah, I feel like that's what I get from it.
And I remember from the way that our life was at that time, it wasn't just around different ages of people. It was so many different types of people. Like we had all the expats that were out in Colombia that were maybe people that had like really good careers, worked for big oil companies. And then we might have had friends that we knew locally that were just like ordinary Colombian people, you know, and we went to barbecues and asals and we lived a really typical Colombian life, didn't we? We didn't live like foreign people living in other
and I went to a proper Colombian school. Like the school that I went to was a private school, but it was like a Colombian school where you don't speak English. It's not like I went to an English school in a different country when I grew up in there. So I think that was really cool because I was like a proper Colombian kid.
Proper Colombian kid, yeah. Proper Colombian girl. I want to ask you, what was hard about life growing up?
What was hard? Can I have a time scale of when?
Let's talk about in the Colombian years.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's start with that.
What was hard growing up in Colombia? I think the first thing that comes to me is saying goodbye to my rabbit when we had to go to England. I say that was pretty hard.
So saying goodbye and making that change.
Saying goodbye, saying goodbye and making the change, but nothing comes to me as like what was difficult in Colombia. I actually don't have anything that's like difficult. I mean, I remember, don't know, maybe hanging out in your office and like entertaining myself, making little paper people.
Your paper people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's not hard though. That's just something that's like, you know, when you linger because I'm like waiting for you or something like that. Maybe there was
Yeah.
like there was lingering, but I wouldn't say there was hard times.
Mm.
I can't remember feeling like there were hard times.
That's so interesting as well. And when you talk about coming to my office, so in Colombia, there's a system where you can only drive your car on particular days of the week at particular times to try and cut down on traffic. So we used to have the days that we weren't allowed to drive the car. It's called pico y placa. And on those days, we'd either have to be out of my office by like 4 p.m., which Bella wasn't back from school by then, or we couldn't leave until after 7 p.m.
Wow.
So there was 2 times a week where Bella would get dropped off at my office by school transport. And then we'd be there to 7 p.m. before we could even leave and go home. So like you said, you just had to amuse yourself. You often went in the other offices that were in the
I
building,
made friends with everyone,
mixed with other people, and they loved you. I mean, you're so lovable anyway. But they always loved you and welcomed you and made you feel so welcome and special. And then there were times when we traveled, and there were times when we did a lot of travel by coach. So there was overnight coach journeys to different cities that sometimes we'd be on a coach for like 12 hours, winding through the mountains. We'd get stopped by military and have military come on the coach.
But it's when you say that, I feel that what I said earlier is true, that maybe it's like the lingering, maybe it was hard, but then if I think about it, that's like also real life. Like there wasn't any phones, was there? It was like I didn't watch like a Netflix show as I was in the car. It's like you're just there and like you said, oh, and then the police come. It's like, oh, what's next in the story of what's happening right now in the present moment. I feel like that's what I really get from it.
Presence.
Because I'm probably the last generation that didn't have like that had the childhood without technology, even though I had a BlackBerry tablet, which if anyone remembers that brand, that's like the only type of technology I had. Obviously a TV, but that's different because I didn't really watch. I mean, no, actually I watched obviously a lot of movies, but it wasn't like technology was there. So maybe in terms of lingering, I had the present moment, and that's why it felt like it lingered.
Like spaciousness
comes
to me when you're talking. It's like there's space between
so much space for, yes, exactly. So it's like, what do? We go on this journey because we're going to Villavicencio or something, but we've got to be in there in the car, and it's like, oh, what's out the window? Or like, oh, I feel bored now. It's like, I love so that. I don't think nothing hard comes to me. The only things are just injuries that I've had before, but I feel like everyone can say the same. But nothing like, I wouldn't say anything specific, actually. That makes me feel kind of sad.
That makes me feel happy.
Oh, like sad as in like I'm happy because it seems like that was happy, but then it makes me want to now go there now. Like right now. Yeah.
In contrast to those days then, and I want to go back to those days in a minute just to talk a little bit more about film and your love of film.
Oh yeah.
But in contrast to those days, how does life feel now?
Sad face. Just like transactional and restricted, and like you have to schedule in and make time for stuff. It doesn't feel free. It doesn't feel like this spaciousness. Yeah. That's sad.
And I guess reflecting on that right now, and you might not know, right? You might not, the answer might not, there might not be an answer. But do you feel that that's a difference between Colombian culture and this culture? Is it because you grew up and became a woman instead of a little girl? Or like, what do you think? Or is it like all of that stuff?
There's so much packed into that question. I feel like we're gonna have to get into it.
Let's get into it.
So first of all, I'd probably say, obviously you grow up and then you have more responsibilities. So now I work and I go to uni and I have my own hobbies and we're a family and we do all of these things. So there's like, you have responsibilities anyway, which then makes spaciousness just a bit more restricted, but that's normal. But what's not normal is that you should be enjoying maybe all of those things. And then that's where you get like the kind of the corporate system and the capitalism, which is like, just keep going all the time, like boom, 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 like that. So I think both of those things, as well as growing up, it's just a system that we live in anyway, is probably making that fast pacedness. And then whenever anyone asks me, actually, I don't know if you know this, whenever anyone else says like, oh, what do you miss about Colombia? Or what did you like from it? I always say it's the people and the sense of community, because then I always say, and this is going to sound really negative, I always say that I love the culture and the Colombian culture and everything. And then I say, because in Britain, we came back here and everyone's sarcastic, cold, individualistic. Like it's very individualistic and like that. It's like, so I think that's the biggest difference when people say, what do you miss from it? But then we're here and then we have like, I have opportunities for film, opportunities for this. Like obviously maybe it's grown in terms of media there, because obviously we were there at a time, but also there wasn't much media anywhere anyway.
Yeah.
But I'm just thinking, I wonder what the Colombian film industry is like. I've never thought about it before. But yeah, I think
People.
yes,
Yeah.
it's the people.
That's so interesting. And as you were saying that, I was thinking about the times when we have like explored and looked for, like actively sought out community in England over the last few years, because obviously since you were a little girl, your brother came along when you were 9, 10 years old. So you've got your brother now as well. And so life had like a big shift. So we moved to England. Then you had a brother come into your life, which you were a great sister and so loving, and you were so excited, and you always wanted a little brother or sister. So it was like such a gift for you. Like, I'm having a little brother or sister. So you have your brother in your life. So that changed. But I think specifically over the last couple of years, we have sought out, both individually and as mother and daughter, we've sought out more community. We've sought out like who are our community, right? Because like it's not something I'm going to go into today and ask you about like our journey with where we've lived, like in terms of like homelessness and other things like that. And we're not going to talk about that today, because I feel like that's like in of itself a whole podcast. But I think looking for community of like-minded people that you can feel present with, that you can be in the moment with, and aren't always just doing like what's the next thing, or so in terms,
maybe it's a mindset thing then, in terms of the people, because I think about people that I hang around now and I feel like time, but like you don't feel time, because time is also like a construct in itself. It's like when I'm with particular people, it's like we're having a blast. Like when I dance, because I'm a dancer as well, I have no sense of time. I have like, oh no, we finished in 15 minutes and I want to get this in. But that's why I love dance so much, because there's no time. We're just there with the people. And then when I hang out with my best friends, my closest friends and stuff, it's like I'm just there.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense actually, in terms of how people and time
and being present together.
Yeah.
Because I started mixing in circles of people that were involved in like ritual and ceremony. So over the last couple of years, you've seen me go through, like I was mentioning at the beginning, like a lot of different transformations of, like, you know, for a while I was like the psychotherapist mom, and then I had this beauty business and teaching and training business in Colombia, and then it was like been online coaching. It's like different versions of your mom, right?
Yeah, so like, many. Then you're a bodybuilder at some point.
I did a bikini bodybuilding competition. So true. Thanks for pointing that out as well. But then the last couple of years, it's been more like medicine woman journey.
Yeah.
Where I've been delving into shamanic wisdom, reconnecting with my sacred roots. And I think being a mom, when you're a mom, any journey that you go on, you take your children with you, right?
Yeah, well, especially our relationship, I feel as well. Like already having gone to your events when I was a little person, like from a young age, it's like, of course I'm going to come with you and all of these other things, isn't it?
Yeah. But saying that, I think with plant medicine especially, so when I started like feeling really called to plant medicine, and I started journeying with the mushroom, and like kind of getting more curious about using these methodologies, or these sacred medicines as a kind of method, as part of healing, as a way of evolving, not just like experimenting and having fun and dabbling. For me, it was about really deep healing, getting in touch with myself, and moving through a lot of wounding that I realized I was carrying, and was causing us, you know, both of us and our whole family, like ancestral kind of stuff, right? You know what I'm saying. But when I started, that's not something that I would instantly bring my children into, because that wouldn't be
No,
very
that's weird.
responsible as a mom, right? And you were probably about 16 or 17. But at some point in that journey of me exploring those medicines, at some point you became really interested in exploring medicines, and without me saying, hey, come along and do this, or come and join me, or you should do this, like, tell me a little bit about what was it inside of you that decided to do that, and what that experience was like.
I think maybe it was like a trusting, because I know that you were doing your own thing, you were doing your own thing, looking at these things, like, for example, Cambo.
Yeah.
And then maybe it's that I'd see the process that you'd go through. So like how you were going into it and how you come out after it. And just when you have all the facts that you have, about all these different things, you come back, you're like, oh, this is good for this and this is good for that. So then it makes me think, oh, it's good for like a lot of things. So maybe that's interesting. But I don't think that's me saying it rationally. That's my rational answer, because my first intuitive answer was, I've got no idea. Like I was just, that was my first answer. It was like, I don't know. I literally just said, I'm going to do Cambo.
Yeah.
Like last year, last year's November.
About a year ago.
Yeah, about a year ago. So that's my real answer, which is, I have no idea. You can look at it rationally, but I literally had no answer. It was just like, I'm going to do Cambo. And you're like, oh, okay.
I was surprised.
Yeah, you were like, oh, okay, are you sure? Because obviously we've had the conversations of like what happens, the purge and everything like that.
Yeah,
it's like, it doesn't sound fun or like luxurious or something like that. So I think I was just like, yeah, I'm coming to this, because I think you said, oh, I've got I'm Cambo, I'm doing it here, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'll come.
Yeah.
And it's like, who said that?
So I love that you just intuitively felt called by the medicine.
Yeah.
You just got this call, which was, I don't know why, or I can't rationalize. I can rationalize.
You can if you wanted to, but it doesn't feel like a real answer.
But actually, you feel the real truth is just, you just felt that it was right. And for anyone that doesn't know, Cambo is an Amazonian medicine that comes from the Amazonian tree frog, and it's the serum that the frog produces on its back, and they take some of the serum off the back of the frog, and you receive some little points on your skin, some little burns, just to take off the first couple of layers of skin. And the frog medicine, the serum, goes into your lymphatic system and all around your body, and it's a very powerful, very potent medicine that is a deep purge, a deep cleansing, and quite a quick experience. Like a Cambo is something that's over in a few hours, and you might be processing it for a few days or for weeks or whatever afterwards.
Yeah, so
but it's over pretty quick.
After hearing that, it doesn't sound like a spa day or anything. Like, so I feel like that should be really emphasized, that it's just like, it was just like, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah. And it wasn't like for fun.
No, it wasn't for fun either. It wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna try this out. It's just like, it's just like, I need to know. Of course, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh yeah, I'll give that a go. It's like, no, you've got to like really know if you want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember that first time, the first time when you came to Cambo, it was a big deal for me, because I had to really surrender as your mum that we were both going to be in the room journeying with medicine at the same time, but held separately. So when you journey with Cambo, if you journey with a good practitioner, you will be held one-to-one. And with the teacher that we were working with, they would work around the room, and there'd usually be two practitioners. So it could be that Bella was being held through her Cambo at the same time as me, or it might be separately, but it's the same day, but we're held one by one. So the first time, I think you went first.
Yes.
You went first, and it was, I had to just trust that the facilitator had you, because you were going through a lot, weren't you? Like you were.
Well,
no, the first time
I didn't.
you
I
were
wasn't
pretty
actually,
together.
So here's the tea. Like the first time,
I'm remembering.
So I got it on my ankle, which I think is where most people start, and it was a breeze. Wait for it. Of course it wasn't, but it was like, I feel so discomforted in myself and everything. And I don't know if you know Cambo properly, then there's different gates. So I had 3 at first, which is like 3 doses. Is that how you would determine?
Yeah, 3 gates.
Yeah, like 3 gates. And I was like, oh yeah, I can hold myself through this. Is pretty good. And then the practitioner was like, okay, let me give you another one. And then I did purge, but it wasn't like, you know, it was like the easiest thing ever. And it was just like, okay, maybe it was like a hello, you know, to like this stuff. Yeah.
But you did so well, Bella. Like, I have to, you know, I have to stop you there and just say, also, like, massive respect to you for, first of all, even deciding to do it. Like, massive respect. And it's not like you are some kind of rebellious, uncautious teenager that's
I'm
just
like the most cautious person. If you
you are really cautious and you really think things through, and you're really like grounded, centered person. So first of all, for you just to make the decision, I am feeling called to this medicine. It's not an easy medicine. It's a really not an easy medicine at all. So first of all, deciding to do it. Secondly, when you were sat there with the medicine, you on that first one especially, it was like you held yourself.
I did, and I remember
incredibly.
I remember you saying, like before, because obviously you, after I decided, you told me all the tips, you know, to like try and make me feel as comfortable as possible.
Yeah.
And I remember you said like, just keep your back straight, just keep your back straight and keep breathing. And I had that in my head the whole time, and that's why I was so fine, because I was like, it's like I could hear you, but then myself too, like telling myself to do it, because it's like, it's not just one person to tell you something, you've got to do the action yourself as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it was amazing. And then what I think I was bringing into it was the second time that you went, and then that was a bit more there was a bit more, there was fainting, and there was like more turbulence.
It's just everything in there. I think I fainted 6 times, and that time I had 6 gates, and that was like, it's because that time I brought an intention to it. That's what it was. I feel like the first time was like, hello, I'm here, and this is what I'm about, and I'm about to get into this and see like, what is this, you know? That's what I feel like. Okay, I'm going to try this out. And then second time it was like, I have a intention, and I was like, it was like the thing again, I'm going to do another combo. And it's like, in your mind you're like, why would I do that to myself again? But you just for some reason you do. And I had an intention, and my intention, it was quite a big one. And that's why I feel like then I had a turbulent time, because it's getting all of the stuff out and getting through everything. It's the medicine was like, all right, you said you wanted to get rid of some baggage. Let's
we go.
Yeah,
let's do it.
Yeah,
let's get it out.
So then that's why it's like, then I had like not a proper experience, but like an intentional one, because I feel like that's the most important thing, to have the intention about it. And then that comes into other stuff that you want to talk about, you know, with other people and how they view all of these different type of medicines and therapies and stuff like that, because it can just be seen as like, for example, I don't know when you want to bring it up.
Like
for example,
I think it's useful to bring in so you had some Cambo experiences, and you also went and sat on a full weekend with an immersion with the mushroom.
Yes,
didn't you,
that's what I wanted to get onto.
Okay.
So with the psilocybin, it's like, you know, most people who you hear are like, oh yeah, I took the mushrooms and I saw these blue platypuses everywhere, and they're just like in their room, you know, and stuff like that. And like, I can say that these are anecdotes taken from people who I know, who are my age as well. So it's really hard as a person who's my age, if you're not in these circles and you're talking about your experience, it gets viewed in a different way. It gets viewed as like, oh, that's fun. Like, what did you see? And how did it feel? Like, and like, it's more of like a dealership, because I feel there's no intention. That's where I was coming with that.
Right.
So because there's no intention with what you're doing, there's no experience, you know, because everything we make for ourselves is so subjective anyway, like the human experience which we have. So if you don't put like a label on it or put something on it, then it won't do that for you, because you're not asking for anything. Or you're not asking for this.
Yeah.
I
think when you go into the experience and you're not looking for healing, you're not looking for the medicine to work with you, then it doesn't know that's what's required.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. And
You
you're
might
not
get
aware.
healing by accident through
Yeah.
it, but if you don't ask the medicine, you're not collaborating
Exactly.
with the
Because
consciousness.
it's the collaboration, and that's what I
Yeah.
feel like people should understand as well. It's not like, oh, you do this and then you're a different person, you can do all these things, or you have all this clarity. It's like you've got to see and like extract what you get from it, and then apply that to your life afterwards.
Yeah.
Because it's not just like, hey guys, I went away for a weekend, I came back and now I'm a different person. It's like, no, how are you a different person, and why would you be?
And you are so good at that.
Oh,
Like
thanks.
you are exceptional at taking the experiences that you've had and learning from them and applying them in your life. And like, I can't even imagine when I was 19, I was not doing any of these things. I'd had some dabbling with mushrooms and acid and things, but not for healing, right?
Yeah.
So I was those people that you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just maybe a bit bored or rebellious, I'll just try this out.
Yeah.
But maybe a part of me, you know, deep down, maybe a part of me was looking for expanding my consciousness and having these experiences.
Yeah, there are still particular people who choose to do those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in difference to you, what I see with you, and this is like, and I also, not to take anything away from you, because it's really, I think you have really unique way of doing this, and it's really special. And you know, we talked about this, like how special you are and the gifts that you have. And I also see your generation as being very different to mine, which I didn't think I'd be saying this, but it's like I have to like accept the reality of what I see and what I experience, which is women, especially seeing as, you know, we're focused on women today. Women are just very different to like being a woman, being a 19-year-old woman for me in you know, the early 2000s, like the late 90s, early 2000s. Being a 19-year-old woman, 20-year-old woman was, I think, a world away from being a 19-year-old, 20-year-old woman now. So you seem to have this ability to take these experiences and like do something with them and learn very quickly. And I know it's really hard to like capture it, but if you were to capture it like just briefly, what do you think you have got from these experiences with plant medicine? Like,
oh my God.
Yeah, no. But like, and maybe we can tie this into film, right? Because we started with, you're on a film course, and since you were a little girl, you wanted to be a film director.
Yeah.
And you haven't wavered in that.
Well, I think what it provided me with, and this is as a summary, is a clarity and a sense of what does my life mean and what does life mean? And it's like, I'm here to inspire and create change, and that's what I want to do. And that just happens to be through the form of film, because everyone, I believe, is subjectively that everyone has a reason to be here and to do their own little thing, because everyone's unique. And my expression of what I'm doing is just, it happens to be through film. It could have been through something else, like law, blah, 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 like who knows? But for me, it's like, I'm here to do something that I want to do, as well as maybe like have to do type of thing, you know. It's just like set, not that it's set in stone, but it's like there's no doubt that I'm here to do this thing, you know. And it's like it happens to be through film, because my Bella avatar is like, oh, I love movies, so then it all synchronizes. And that is the biggest thing, actually, synchronicities within the universe, and it always showing you who you are, but it's just if you see it or not, you know. And that's like tying the knot of all these different things. It's like, oh, that's why I liked this, or like that's why I was into this, and it's because it's put me into that. Yes, I think from those experiences, it's given me, I would say, clarity, provided me with a lot of intuition, and finding myself, like building myself up and finding who I am. But not as like a, oh, who am I? As like a, you know, like a ego person. It's just like, what is this?
I know what you mean.
Yeah,
I know what you mean.
Okay, because you look a bit confused.
No, I'm just like giving you space.
Oh, okay.
To express.
Too much.
Yeah. In terms of your movies and the kind of things you want to make, so I know that you've made a couple of short movies, or you've made a short movie, and you've created and done like the creative part, made the ideas and the scripting and stuff for some other ones. But like, I know, okay, I know, I should leave you to say it, but I guess you want to entertain people, right? Because movies are a form of entertainment. So you want to entertain people.
Yeah.
But beyond entertaining people, what is it that you want people to get from your
My favorite
movie?
question. My favorite question. Okay, are you ready for this? So, I believe that with media and film, especially films, you can impact the audience and their mind, and how they depict the message and how the messages are represented and portrayed is so important, because then you can take away that. So for me, I think maybe also because I'm autistic, I learned through film, and like I'm like, oh, I understand this message. This is what it's trying to teach you. Like, you put it down. But even if you watch a film just purely for entertainment, you still get the messages somehow subconsciously. That's why representation is so important. That's a whole different topic. So I think for me, I want to inspire and create change through making storylines that actually impact the spectator. So it makes you question and think, but as well as being like, you know, like a smooth process of entertainment, like nothing gritty. It's just like, what are stories which would inspire people and would make them, like, I would get so much, oh, why do I feel like crying? I'd get so much satisfaction from someone if they would watch something that I did and then wanting to be like a better person from that, or like get something from it, like, oh, I could do this with my life, like how this character did it, or like, oh, look, she's come out of this by herself, how does she do that? Yeah, it's like finding themselves through that. I'm gonna have to write this down now, and because I didn't even know this.
I love that.
Yeah, I think it's just like having the, like, the, not the power, but just like the talent to create something that can then impact other people, and then through the ripple effect of then everyone being a better person.
I think it is power, and I think it's okay to say power, because
Not as in like power, like, oh,
no,
you
but
know,
feminine,
but
it is,
like just as in like this power to, like, you know.
it is a power, and I think we shouldn't be afraid of using that word. It's like a waterfall has a power, right? The water that's like a fast river flowing has a power to it that's like the power of nature. And so when you talk about power, you don't mean it in the paradigm of control,
Yeah,
or
exactly. That's what I'm
you
saying.
mean power as in like
Detached power.
this is actually something powerful. This is something
Yes, there we
potent
go.
that has the potential to change somebody through them viewing this movie and hearing this story.
Yeah.
You know, like, I think, you know, years ago when I trained, it was like almost, it was when you were a baby, I trained as a hypnotherapist, and it was all about stories. And the reason why stories are so powerful is because they bypass the logical part of the brain.
Exactly.
That is trying to identify. So if I'm saying to you,
Yeah.
you, instantly the
won't
ego,
take anything.
yeah, instantly the ego is defensive,
Yeah.
and the ego is like, well, no, that's not me, that's not me. Whereas if we tell a story, which is like what religious texts are, parables, stories, we tell children stories, it's because our brain loves stories and it learns so much better from
That's
stories.
why I learn better with film.
So you learn, you know, through your personal experience, you've learned with film.
Yeah.
And so I think this power of stories and of I think what I'd like to kind of wrap up, or head towards wrapping up with, is something that you and I speak about a lot, which is the feminine voice, right? Women's voices. And I know this is like difficult one to talk about on camera, I guess, because I start feeling like I'm going to censor myself and being like, I don't want it to come out this way, or that I'm being sexist, or because your generation especially have much more of an open idea around like gender and gender roles and the way that we're perceived. And we speak about this a lot, don't we?
Yeah.
So I think, I guess what I want to ask you is, something I found it hard to come to terms with is that women are still marginalized.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And you know my journey, and I
Yeah.
struggled with realizing women are not as free and liberated, especially in the West, as it's perceived to be, as I feel like I grew up believing that all the liberation of women had been done by people before me, and that I could be equal now, I could
Or
have
how it's
equal
shown that
pay.
you have been successful through like all the different advertisings and
Yeah,
stuff.
like I'm a woman now, I can have
do
it all.
this,
I
yeah.
can work, I can have children, I can do this, and I can do this. But from, I know on some of the movies that you've worked on creating and the ideas that you've developed, you have quite specific ideas around representation of characters, and
Yeah.
like just tell me a little bit about that and why that's important, and specifically speaking more towards like women and or just generally,
Yeah.
why that's important to you, and how do you feel that needs to change? How is that, how do you want, if you could change it now through movies now,
Oh my God.
and get your movies out there,
Yeah.
how would you do it? Like,
Oh,
and why?
okay. Brilliant question. It's literally like very yummy. But yeah, I think I'd like to answer this question through a film that I wrote, called Healing Storm, copyright. And and in terms of representation, I wanted to make something where a woman was figuring herself out in this world that we do live in. And at the end, like, she saves herself, but that doesn't mean that she's alone, because she's still got her community, she's still got her best friends, she's still got her son and her family, but like she still has the independence and the power to get through it herself. And what I did was show like a negative representation of masculinity through one of the characters, but then I really wanted to emphasize how there are so many positive representations of masculinity, so then people know what to do. So it's like her son, for example, is very kind and warm and everything, and he also has a girlfriend, and you see how he treats her, or like her best friends have different partners and stuff like that. And so then within the film, without it explicitly saying this is good or bad, you can see like, oh, that's what a healthy relationship looks like within these characters, but you really know which one is not healthy. So for me, in terms of women, and actually this is really interesting because all of the projects that I have written are always women at the forefront.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. They all have their own agency, and that's like the biggest thing ever, which is that women have not had their agency within films. It's like, it's always, they did this because of that, or like this, they are now here because of this, or I don't know, like you can make up your own mind on what that means to you, but having no agency. And there was this quote by Jenna Ortega, this actor, and she says, I don't want to see a Jamie Bond, as in like James Bond, but female version. It's like, we need to have our own original stories and our original heroes and our original characters, because otherwise it's just stemming off from like men. And then that's so interesting because like you really emphasize how it's like, okay, we're women, but how are we still women acting on a male-based system?
Exactly.
It's like, you don't just want to be empowered woman but then working within that system.
Yeah.
It's like, you just want to be empowered woman full stop, or just empowered person.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not even about the gender. If you break it down, it's like, we are just people who have been marginalized, and our power has been subdued, is that a word?
Yeah.
Like minimized because of whatever, like because of like, it literally, who knows why. It's just because of history. We are just happen to be these people. So it's like, that's why I find it important for me to bring out agency within characters, to then allow people to be like, how do I formulate my own agency in real life? You know, how do you make your own decisions? How do you do what you want to do? Yeah.
I really appreciate you explaining that, and I think it's such an exciting arena for you to be working in, and it's just perfect for you. And you've been making movies since you were like, since you could speak, and since you could, that you used to make Lego movies, stop motion animation movies, and you were just incredible, and your creativity and your ideas and the depth behind the ideas, and the reason why you want to tell these stories as well is just like, it's just beyond me how
emotional.
yeah.
I don't know why.
And it's so deep, Bella. You know, you're 19.
Well, my first
it's just incredible.
Meant for More, and it's literally it's based on an 18-year-old girl who's just like working this casual job, and she doesn't know what she wants to do or what her dream is.
We can put the link to your movie in.
Okay.
The link
yeah,
in,
okay.
The link to your movie.
It is very like amateur in terms of, you know, whatever.
Yeah,
like, because it was my first ever film when I was 17, but the messaging behind it, it's like, the title is called Meant for More, and it's literally just all about this girl, and she's got her own agency and everything. Like, she's not sexualized, she's not objectified, it's not like romantic interest or this and that. It's like, she is her own person trying to figure herself out. And like, how does she do that through the film? Oh wow. I didn't even know these things, you know, until they come out now. I did.
You did.
They were in there.
Just as we wrap up then, I think people will be able to watch this and see, we have a really deep connection and we speak a lot, like every day we have
Oh my
conversation,
God.
all day every day essentially. When we're together we have deep
This
conversations
podcast
about
is a long time coming.
about the patriarchy or about film or
Yeah.
about gender or about plant medicine or about consciousness. Like we're always talking about these things. I was just like feeling into what's the final question I would ask you, and I was like, oh my God, there's so many, because my ADHD brain is just like I have a million questions that I could come to. I'm gonna ask you one that I don't know, I feel like I want to ask you one that my brain said, no, that's too hard to ask her that. Just ask like a nice, light, easy question to finish off. I can see the worry in your face already. But I'm like, I want to finish it off with this question, which is like, have you got a piece of advice for people who are listening?
So interesting.
To this podcast? It could be anyone, right? Like in my first one I recorded, because you listened to it and you said to me, oh, I really like the way you said, I don't know how you found this, or
but it's meant for you to listen. Yeah.
So I don't know who's watching this, right?
It's true.
And it could be a middle-aged woman, or it could be a young woman, or it could be a guy, it could be whatever, it could be any type of person listening to this. But I don't know, just feel into your intuition or whatever comes through. Like, just to end it with, have you got any words of wisdom or piece of advice? I mean, there was already loads in what we've talked about, but is this anything that comes through?
I'd say find people to have conversations like this with, because it's so freeing to just even question or just explore all of these different topics. Like, I'm just happy that you just said we have these conversations like every day about so many different things. We get so deep. It's like, do you have that? Do you surround yourself with people where you can just explore different topics and different things, and are you allowed in that environment to like explore different stuff? Because it's the worst thing if you're restricted and you're just listening to this and kind of othering it away from yourself. It's like putting it into you. Think, do I have these they're just fun conversations. It doesn't have to mean like, oh, you believe this and you believe that, or like, oh, you think this about that. It's like, no, can you just have free-flowing conversations with your friend or your family? I don't know, even your cat, maybe, if you have one. Like, just like, hey, what do you think about the patriarchy? Like,
and that's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I love it so much. And it ties back to what you started with in the beginning. There was like this theme that I feel that's come through this conversation that we've had, which has been about spaciousness and being present. And I think it would have been so easy, the synchronicities, right? It would have been so easy for you and I to keep putting this off, because I've only done like 4 podcasts or something, right? So it's not like I've done 20 and then I've said, I keep meaning to have my daughter on my podcast. I knew I wanted to have you right at the beginning, and I was like, I want you to come and speak. 'Cause you have so much wisdom and we should
have recorded this.
So I want to finish this with acknowledging both of us for making the space today. It's not been an easy week, and it hadn't been an easy morning, and making the space to have this conversation, I think, will be beneficial to whoever's listening, will have got, even if it's one nugget from this conversation, then it's worth it. And the advice, the piece of wisdom that you finished this off with, which is like, make space for these kind of conversations, make space to slow down, to drink the tea, to sit on the floor, or do however you want to do it, and be with people and just connect and be present. And so thank you so much, Bella, for sharing that with us, and just honoring you and myself and our relationship as mother and daughter.
So happy.
And me too.
Oh, nice.
I love you.
I love you too. It's nice.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Thanks.
Bye-bye. Thank you for